Hey there, today's episode is brought to you by Samaritan Ministries, a community of Christians who care for one another spiritually and financially when a medical need arises. It's biblical, affordable healthcare sharing. You can learn more at samaritanministries.org/The Forgotten Podcast.
Meeting you right where you are on your foster care journey. This is The Forgotten Podcast.
Hello and welcome to The Forgotten Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Cabe, and I am so happy to be with you. If you are part of the foster care community, passionate about serving, or simply interested in learning more, we are here for you. In every episode of this podcast, you will hear stories from men and women who have experienced foster care to one degree or another. They may have grown up in the system, are caseworkers, foster parents, or others who are here to bring you hope or encouragement. If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe and share it with a friend. And remember, you are not alone. I hope you enjoy the Forgotten Podcast. Well, Heather, I'm really happy to have you on the show today. I want to give our listeners just a little bit of context about who you are before we dive in. You have been married to your husband, David, for 7 years. You have 4 biological boys. So you are a boy mom.
That's right.
And you've had a foster son. Right now, even you're doing respite. Is that what you said to me earlier before recording? Yeah. And you are also a part-time charge nurse at Brigid's Path. And we're going to talk some about this experience because in this organization, because it's really been impactful to you, right?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, thank you again for coming on. And Heather, start by just telling us a little bit about what Brigid's Path does.
Sure. So Brigid's Path is an infant recovery center. And what we do is it's a home-like environment for babies with NAS, which is neonatal abstinence syndrome. So typically, these are babies that were exposed in utero to substances. So typically, they would withdraw in the NICU and go straight into care, is what we usually see. And so what we do at the Infant Recovery Center is we've got a medical team. So we've got a nurse practitioner, doctors, nurses aides that care for them as if they were in the NICU because we need to give, medications. But they're able to wean off their medications much quicker. And we also do non-pharmacological care, which just means non-medication care, which is cuddling, low stimulation. We have, mamaroos to put them in, lots of snuggling and holding the babies because that's what they need when they're actively withdrawing. But other than that, moms can room in with their babies for up to 90 days if moms are in treatment and are also sober. And so by the end of that 90 days, many of our babies go home with mom or with some other biological family. We have a family advocate that works really hard with moms to get stable housing, transportation, works very closely with CPS as well, because all the moms do have an open case when they come in. But just this last year, I think it was like 81% of our babies went home with mom or biological family, and 85% of them would have gone straight into the system.
Wow, that is awesome. That's so incredible. I need to ask though, you talked about these babies actively withdrawing. What does that look like for a baby? What is that experience like?
So for many of our babies, it looks like they have a really high tone, a lot of crying. They're very jittery and, like shake. And that I personally think is the worst to see, and a lot of difficult with feeding. So we do all of their care, but we do a lot of feeding. We're just and so a lot of times they have a hard time with weight gain, don't have coordinated suck swallow. So we do a lot of that, working with them on that. So a lot of our babies, what's really important is the low stimulation. So we have like a living room area in the middle, and then 6 different small nurseries where it's just baby with white noise machine, and their crib, and we'll go in there and rock them, swaddle them, which really helps with a lot of that, the being jittery. And so that tends to be most helpful for them.
Wow. And how long can that withdrawal last?
I'm trying to think. I know we are able to wean babies if they come on medication much faster than if they were in the NICU. So if you think about it, NICU nurses are absolutely amazing. I always wanted to be a NICU nurse, so it's kind of an in between. We're kind of like a well baby NICU. But if you think about it, those babies don't get one-on-one care because there's much more critical babies in the NICU, which you just can't, you can't handle it all. So they typically just stay there and scream and cry. So because we are able to go to them right when they cry and take care of those needs that way, we're able to wean them off their meds much quicker. But I would see an active withdrawal probably takes about a few days to like a week and a half before they're completely weaned off their medication and we don't see the active withdrawing.
Wow. And then it's kind of the rest of the time is spent, is it teaching like the sucking and helping with that kind of stuff and just loving and caring? And what does the rest of the time kind of look like?
Right. So a lot of the time we are educating mom too. So a lot of that is really some of what I love is that the beautiful part of kind of helping her what it looks like to be a mom and to teach and educate. So if mom is there, we're encouraging her to do all of her cares for her baby. And so a lot of that is like relational. So we're making relationships with moms, helping them care for their baby. If mom is not there and rooming in, then it's feeding and caring for them. And a lot of times there's stuff in the background happening of, how can we get mom on her feet? What does discharge look like? But after the withdrawal period, it is a lot of on the side of education.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Well, and were you a foster parent before your experience with Brigid's Path, or was that a piece of your story to becoming a foster parent?
So when we first moved here, long story short, my husband's job hadn't started yet. We moved from North Carolina, and it was like a contract job. So there was some things that messed up, and we couldn't sign on our house until he started his job. So we just lived in a bunch of random places for about 6 weeks. So there was someone that was like a mutual friend I had never met. We were strangers to each other. And they said, we have a big basement. That's why we bought this house, is to just help people out. Do you want to live here until you can get into your house? So their generosity was just huge. But we talked a lot of foster care because we had talked about being interested in that one day. And they were involved with Safe Families and were looking to get licensed to just do respite to start, there. And so she told me about Brigid's Path. And I looked at my husband, and at that point I had only worked PRN and had planned to not work for a while and just stay home with the kids. But I said, I am not going to work anywhere else unless it's Brigid's Path. So I just would look at their website for job openings, because I just knew I always wanted to do something with babies and moms and maybe something birth, but I wasn't sure. So anyway, we started our licensing process in June of 2021. I got a job there, PRN, which is just as needed. So I could just pick my shifts whenever I go in. In December, which is also when we got licensed. So I worked there a few months, and then our first foster son came in March.
Okay. Wow.
Hey, a quick word from our sponsor, Samaritan Ministries. God's love is steadfast and true. He cares for us and He calls us to care for one another. And Samaritan Ministries connects hundreds of thousands of Christians across the nation who come together through prayer, encouragement, and financial support when a medical need arises. It's not insurance, and there are no networks, so you get to choose the healthcare providers and treatments that best meet your family's needs. Your medical bills are sent to Samaritan Ministries, and then they notify fellow members to pray for you and send money directly to you to help pay those bills. When the body of Christ comes together to pray, encourage, and provide for one another, burdens are lifted and God is glorified. This applies to all areas of life, including healthcare. You can learn more at samaritanministries.org/The Forgotten Podcast, and we want to say a very special thank you to Samaritan Ministries for sponsoring today's episode. Now, back to the show.
And you had your foster son for a time. You'll have to tell us how long, but you've shared that saying goodbye to your foster son was both the hardest and most redemptive experience that you've had. I would love to hear more about that experience.
Sure. Well, part of working at Brigid's Path first, before we got a placement, was incredibly helpful for me because I had been reading a ton of books and listening to your podcast and following Jamie Finn on Instagram. You know, I had been doing a lot of learning about how to support biological family, which is great and it's head knowledge. But then I started working there and I realized like these moms would be the biological mom of my child if it weren't for Brigid's Path. And I worked a night shift and we're staying up till 3 or 4 a.m. You know, these moms are staying up late, just talking with us, telling us their stories, telling us what addiction looks like, saying, I don't want any part of this anymore. I'm watching them bathe their babies, talk to their babies, sing to their babies, just absolutely love their children. Yeah. And to just see that, I realized, you know, like these aren't scary, horrible people, you know, and we were licensed for just ages like 0 to 2. So especially with, you know, infants that were taken as infants, I was like, these moms just love their babies and they're good moms. And we're talking about parenting stuff. And I was pregnant at the same time, you know, and chatting with them about that. So it really helped me see like that this isn't something that I have to be scared of or necessarily, obviously I have to work hard, but that it might not be as terribly hard as it seems. So, and now our foster son, their family was a little bit different situation. It wasn't necessarily that substances were involved, but it helped me in just loving his mom well and genuinely, and not that it was forced. And we ended up having a really beautiful relationship. And I know not everyone gets this, but she would tell me all the time, you know, thank you so much for what you're doing. And, you know, you're a great foster mom to our son. And having that prior work experience just helped me to see that she's a real person and this is a family that needs to be together. And she really, really loves her son. So when he left, he was with us like 1 week shy of 4 months, which in foster care world is really not that long, and we didn't know anything yet. It was our first time around.
Absolutely.
So I was like, I see people have kids for 18 months and 2 years. We were kind of almost prepping for that in a way. And he was able to go to a family member, which meant that she could see him far more often than she was currently seeing him. So all of that was just a really great situation, like the whole situation. I was able to talk to the family member and give her his schedule and everything. But at the same time, it was like, wow, I was not sure that we would fall in love with him this much in such a short period of time, which is a great thing. And really with his mom too, and rooting for her and praying for them. So to have this weird, like dual emotions, which I know is so prevalent in foster care, but to be genuinely so excited for her that she would get to see him more and go to this family member's house and spend time with him, while at the same time feeling like we are really losing a family member. When they come to you at 5 days old, you're all that they know. So we just cried and cried the day that he left. And his mom sent me a picture when they were together. It was like an hour drive, and she sent me a picture right away and kept saying like, he's coming home today. So just seeing that was so beautiful. And just to be, heartbroken at the same time was just really hard.
Yeah. It's such a mix, isn't it? It is. Just exactly what you said. It's this redemption, and it's so hard and sad. It's such a mix. It sounds like you have had your perspective really changed. And like you said, Brigid's path has been a huge piece of that. And I think that for so many of us, that is our experience when we enter this foster care world is we thought one thing, we assumed other things, and we learned a whole other thing, Exactly. And I'm so grateful for that perspective change, because I had so much wrong thinking when we first entered. You've said that Brigid's path is the most beautiful community you've ever been a part of. Tell us more about why you say that.
So the women on staff there, so there's nurses and nurses' aides and a nurse practitioner, but then we all have a whole office staff as well.
Okay.
And our family advocates, our nursing managers, everyone in the higher up world as well, as the woman who started it, who was a foster mom, and she saw a disconnect in the system and how we treated parents, and that's why she started it. Just from the very top to the very bottom, I've never seen a group of people so cheer on and support and celebrate moms. And many moms will say that the minute that they walk in to Brigid's path, they do not feel judged, and genuinely will say that. And sometimes the hospital is a different story, So a lot of times at the hospital, they see an addict, and that's the only way that they're going to view them. And it's easy to get jaded when you might see a lot of that. Here, you're getting your baby taken away from you again. Here's another addict. And then they come to us, and we show them around. We love on them. We say, we talk to their baby and say, here's mommy. Do you want to, do you want to go with mommy? And I know that she loves you, and all these things. And we will get updates as staff on almost all of the babies and moms that have left, which has been over 200 babies. And our staff keeps up with all these families, and they want to send us pictures and tell us how they're doing. They will go to court and celebrate when moms reunify with their babies if they do go into care, or a lot of moms, their older children are in care when they come to Brigid's Path. And they'll just walk through that with them. And just the spirit of celebration is something that I've not seen anywhere else. Because it is just, we are all overjoyed when we see moms leave together with their babies or see them come back together again. And that's just a community. It's not only, one foster family is doing that and celebrating someone. Oh, that's really beautiful. It's an entire community of people that is our end goal. And we're genuinely excited and celebratory of these moms. And they feel that too.
I love that. And unfortunately, that's not always the case, is it? When reunification happens or families are, preserved even before to not enter foster care. And I think especially in foster care, I think that's why the church needs educated and understand the goal of foster care, because it's all too easy to actually cheer for the foster parent and say, you deserve this child, you would be better, and cheer against the moms. Why do you believe family preservation and reunification is something that we need to be cheering about, especially as Christians? Why do we need to care about this? Why do we need to cheer for this?
Well, I believe that Christ loves the family and he loves redemption. And I think that's why saying goodbye to our foster son was those competing emotions, but I kept coming back to the word redemption because I remember before they officially said he was coming to our home, I was sitting on the floor and I was folding a bunch of baby newborn boy clothes because we have plenty of them, 4 boys. And my husband said, why are you getting all those out again? Our youngest was like 2.5 at the time. He's just texting me. And I said, I feel like the Lord's telling us that we're going to have a baby boy in our home tomorrow. Wow. And that's one of the clearest times I heard the Lord telling me that. And so I was sitting there folding them, listening to worship music, and the song by Corey Asbury came on called Homecoming. And the bridge says, families will be singing and dancing and laughing, talking about when we are in heaven together. And I just started bawling. I just felt like it was this act of folding these clothes was a true act of worship. And I just thought, how broken is this, that this family is not going to be together? Starting at infancy, like infants need their moms, and just this idea that one day families will be singing and dancing and laughing together again. And I just thought that's why this is important, is that's what the Lord loves, and that's what we will see again one day. And so reunification or family preservation is just a small snippet of heaven here on earth. And what can we do to support that and make that happen safely, where it isn't, a novelty? How can we be loving families so that we don't have to wait for heaven for that to be, the reality of it?
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful and so very true. I think that kids, no matter what has gone on in their first family, they love generally across the board. You see that kids say, I love my birth family. I love my birth parents. I wish I knew more. I wish this or that. Or I was just having this conversation with one of mine just the other day. And like, I also wish for them, as much as I am thankful that God has brought beauty from ashes and allowed us to be in each other's lives, right? Like I would never, I'm so grateful that God has given me these kids. And at the same time, I'm so sad that they had to have this experience, that they didn't have a family that from the beginning was healthy and could stay together, because it adds a lot of things for them that they have to walk through and face and struggle
Right.
through.
Right.
Yeah. The older I get, the more life is just so much and beauty and
Yes.
ashes, right? Sorrow and joy, all at the same time.
Right.
It makes us long for heaven all that much more.
Yes. Yes.
So would you say, Heather, that you've experienced more of Jesus because of your involvement with the foster care community?
Yes, I would definitely say that. I felt like some of the most growth I had spiritually was actually in the year that we were getting licensed and working towards that. And just this last Sunday at church, during the sermon, our pastor said, sometimes you have to put your yes on the table and then let God ask the questions. And I felt like in that period before starting foster care and then jumping in, it felt like this, okay, we have to give God our yes. And then he just asks from there. And so just seeing him work through that and use our yes, however he might want to use that, has just been really transformative for us. And I remember also the day that our little guy left, my husband and I, he's an emotional guy too. So we're both just sobbing into each other's arms. I mean, like uncontrollable. We just could not hold back. And we're hugging each other. And I was about to say, like, why are we doing this? You know, because in the moment I'm like, what? Why would we do this? And before I could say anything, he said, I'm so glad we're doing this.
Wow.
And it just struck me. And I was like, I mean, his wisdom in that moment, I just could not comprehend, because he was communicating, like, even in our grief, I'm glad we're doing this because we're seeing the redemption of it, and God's using us as a part of, you know, these family stories. And that's when I was like, okay, you know, like I see more of Jesus here now. And it's not something where, you know, I can complain or say I want to throw in the towel. But he just used my husband to speak to me to say, you know, I'm glad we're doing this, and it's worth it. You know, these children and families are worth it, despite even being literally in the middle of our tears.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. Isn't that, there's such beauty in that when one is down, the other can often lift us up. That's why, you know, marriage is such a blessing and close friendship is such a blessing. Like we can't and shouldn't do this life alone, right? We need one another, because I have a group of ladies that I text with often. When one of us is feeling weary or needs encouragement, I just reach out, and it's just really a great blessing to know that these are ladies who have my back, who I know will be praying, who will be sending me scripture, who will be reminding me of truth, and the times when I'm just heavy or down, right? We need others. That's beautiful. As we kind of get ready to close out here, Heather, I would love it if you would imagine some of these moms that you've gotten to walk through life with here. I would love to imagine that they're just sitting right here in front of you, and you just want to share with them, like, your heart for them. Would you do that as you close out?
Man, I see how much you love your children, and that you are walking through such hardship and trauma and obstacles to get to this place where you can just live with your baby and love them. And I just want you to know that I see you, and I celebrate your little victories, like using a bus pass to get here to visit your baby, and the big victories where we can see you walk out our door and you're holding a car seat and you're holding your baby with you. And we do all of this. Our heart is because God loves you, and we want to love you better and help teach you what it looks like to be a family and to take care of this baby that you love so much. So we'll always be here loving you and supporting you and celebrating you. And I hope you just have that encouragement to help you get through day by day.
Thank you so much, Heather. Thank you for the work you do there, for
Thank you.
The entire staff there. I have loved learning about this wonderful ministry, and keep it up. And thanks for being on today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, I hope that today's episode encouraged you wherever you are on your foster care journey. We want you to stay connected, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you will never miss an episode. Also, we have great content at theforgotteninitiative.org. Thank you for watching. I cannot wait to be with you next time.